I'd like to introduce John Hawley, who's the originator of the Illuminate Think Shop program in the Navy, which has been the basis of our Warfighter Center design program, along with a couple other places that we dipped into. But a lot of that has to do with just who John is and the enthusiasm and capability and know-how with which he's tackled the problem, and also the 11,000 people that he and his facilitators had the chance to train across the Navy while he was in uniform. So John, to have you here today to talk about design thinking and collaboration and togetherness, trust, inclusion, all the things that JJ just touched on and teed up for us so effectively is a privilege and a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here with us for the next 20 or so.
Awesome. Just give me a second. It's coming in. All right. So, as he said, I'm John. I'm going to try to make this as lively as possible. So if you are at home, hopefully bottom half pajamas, top half serious, we're going to get to the bottom of some stuff really quick. If you guys have questions, I hope you guys jump in right away and ask them. Somewhat uncomfortable for any type of facilitator to get in front of an audience that you can't see their faces, because everything that we do is based on the reaction of the room around us. So why did I play music? I played music because it creates a safe space, you know, and to me, design thinking should create that safe space for you, your people, your organization, et cetera. And that safe space creates the trust, and that trust creates this ability to remove yourself from the emotions of the decision-making process. And because of that, and you remove emotion from the decision-making process, you can get the tacit knowledge of your people, which is what design thinking is all about. And there's a million different definitions all over the place. And to be honest with you, I have my own little flavor of it. And so I'll just share very briefly what I think they all share in common. And so very weird. I know you're at home and you're probably not going to actually do this, but you should. So if everybody can kind of stand up really quick. I am not actually wearing pajamas, just funny slippers. And just stretch. I know you're looking at my torso right now, so I'll try to do this down here. You stretch backwards, right? So that is the divergent thinking piece. Everybody try to touch your toes super quick, right? That's the convergent thinking piece. And so, you know, to tell you what the heck does that even mean? What is that? And the putting your hands back, the divergent thinking piece, that's the quantity over quality. And people are like, well, why don't we just try to solve this problem now, lock everybody in a room and get everybody to think, you know, don't come out until the strategy is done. And really getting that divergent thinking piece done, getting the quantity over quality allows you to kind of pick up the best parts of what you're looking at to go into convergent thinking, which is whittling it down to something that's actionable and tangible, something you can do something with. And that does get to the quality. And so oftentimes, you know, you do a workshop with people and they're like, why are we playing games? Why are we giving dumb ideas? And really it's to go from that dumb idea to the bad one, to the good one, to the great one, to the most amazing idea that we all have to offer. And that is the tacit knowledge. We're using each other to kind of springboard from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And so just like I played music to do like a little icebreaker, I'll tell you that before doing anything with design thinking, trying to get the audience to do something they haven't yet done, is to do an icebreaker. And they are not pointless, I promise you. In fact, they are, when used correctly, some of the most impactful sessions that I have ever had of, let's say, just over 300 engagements that I've done. The icebreaker is the tool to use to get everybody to get outside of their comfort zone and dive in and really try to move the needle, right? Which is what it's all about. So my favorite analogy of what design thinking is, if you didn't necessarily understand that divergent thinking, convergent thinking piece, it's, and some of you have heard me say this before, but it's, Tom Hanks is out in space, Apollo 13 style, and we need to figure out as mission control how to bring him home. Well, how are we going to bring him home? And it's not, well, there's a computer monitor and there's a couple screws and some bolts up here. There's this canister, which I did not necessarily do this so that you could see the Virginia Tech, but this is where I went to school. It is so that you see that there's a monitor that has some kind of film around it. Okay, what component parts can be made out of that? You know, is there a circuit board underneath that has different things that you can use, different adhesives in it? You know, is there some kind of filament? Is this just one item or is it numerous? And that's the cutting room floor. That's the divergent thinking piece. What is in the cockpit down to its component piece? What are those dumb ideas? What are the ideas that nobody is saying out loud, and put them out there? And then you can take a step back when you see the aggregate and go, all right, I have some ideas of how we can kind of piece this together to move forward. So I wanted to try to finish that quickly so that if there are any questions, you can watch me, look at the screen awkwardly until somebody asks a question, or I can keep rolling in. So hopefully somebody will interject and say something verbally, or I'll just keep going. So
we're just excited to be here with you, John.
Well, please, if you cut me off, John, or anybody in the background, I prefer it. I'd much rather it not be a monologue of me kind of going down this rabbit hole. So I saw you unmute your microphone, Brandon.
Yeah, John, I was just going to ask you, Roy wants to know if he can upload some content to discuss, or for you to be able to talk to some of the different events that we use and what you created with Illuminate, and getting into what the CAW uses now after your foundation in WCD, and you can talk to some of the things on the modules that we do.
Easy, and also, just don't put any pictures of that don't look good of me.
Yeah, and here's a good example, and perhaps you can give a brief overview of why the mountain exercise is so important in breaking down silos and hardships and communication barriers that really can go from any rank or authority figure down to the lowest level and flatten it out. Sure.
So I'll start by saying this methodology is, I don't own this. I think, I named it, it is variations from several different people, places, events. So I don't claim to be the cornerstone of this, but I will answer the question. This is one of those things where you can get a group of people that are incredibly serious. They, somebody isn't on mute right now, so I'm getting some feedback on my end. The mountain allows the people that don't have any buy-in to a workshop to go, oh, we can actually do something in this short amount of time. Like, we can actually hear what everyone has to say. I mean, how many people, I don't know if you can raise your hand with the little thing in Zoom, but how many people go to an event and you hear 4 people ask a question and you get 4 answers from a panel or something like that, and you had no idea? Those were only the people that had the opportunity to ask the question. So they're the only ones that were bold enough to walk up to the microphone and ask the question. Well, what if every single person had to put something on a board? And we're not saying that we're going to make the introvert go up there and break dance or something like that, although I've tried. It's to say, hey, look, the picture, go back one picture. Everything that you're looking at, there's no name on any of those stickies. They all carry the exact same amount of weight as the next. And so you can do this with high school students. You can do it with your family. You can do it with senior executives. I've done this with 3- and 4-star admirals in the room, and it's just as impactful because what they're working on is obviously a different outcome. And this mountain really brings it together. I usually do it in the first, say, 40 minutes of any workshop to get the buy-in from the people to say, hey, this is where we're at, this is where we want to go, and this is how we're going to get there. So the mountain, as you're looking at it right now, all the stickies underneath the triangle or the mountain are all of the sticking points, the challenges that you face in your organization, either personally or as a group. And you don't try to be prescriptive and tell them exactly what to do. You leave it open-ended. The top up there is utopia. It's, if there were no barriers here, what could we do with the resources that we have? What could we do if we had better resources? And then everything in the middle, it's not just, tying the two from the, utopia to the status quo at the bottom. It's giving you actionable, tangible things to do with it. And I don't mean we need to improve communication. That's not a very good thing to say. We are going to improve communication by having a reverse all hands call. That's a much better action. You're actually saying, this is what I'm going to do. Or next Tuesday at 9 a.m., we are going to sit down with all of the E6s and see what they think. That is a step towards improving communication. So I don't know if that was long-winded or if that answered your question, Brandon.
It sure did. I appreciate it, John. As we continue to scroll through some of the things, you're going to see things that you're very familiar with if you want to tap in on any of those.
Sure. So putting in, I'll just pick up what I saw just the last slide, which was a little bit of improv. And it goes back to why I played music before I came on. You know, strategy doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be this thing where we don't take breaks until we come up with solutions. Your brain is wired to have a good time, to enjoy the people that you're around, and to feel safe. And so inserting improv into a design thinking, you know, workshop allows you to take a step back and realize these are individuals, these are people. And when they come up with a really bad idea, you don't say now, after doing some improv, you don't say, Brandon, that was the worst idea ever. That could never happen. Instead, you say in your head, you go, hey, I just did this really cool thing with Brandon before. He is a human being. Like, he has feelings, he's vulnerable, and I'm going to treat him like a human. I'm going to actually buy off on the fact that emotion removed, he means well in his bad idea. So I'm going to move on. I'm not going to spend time telling him how bad his idea was. And that improv piece, when inserted in the right place throughout a workshop, a design thinking sprint, allows you to do more in less time. I know that sounds Scrum-like, and it's not necessarily by design. It's just saying, you know, I've been to how many people have been to a 1-hour meeting before where nothing gets done? I mean, everybody. But if you spent 10 minutes to get everybody really energized and excited and to actually have the scene setting done properly in the first 10 minutes, then now you have 50 minutes to do something better, faster, more, and get the tacit knowledge, the people to speak that don't generally get a chance to say something. And now guess what? That 1-hour meeting is done in 50 minutes because you shave time off and you leave feeling comfortable, confident. You know, the output and outcome are what you're shooting for in the beginning. So that improv piece is huge.
John, I'm always struck by the story of how Illuminate got started. In fact, I tell it a lot of the time, and I feel bad because I never do it the same justice that you do, but I think it cashes out to the idea that at some level, you know, in the same way that trust has been the thread running through our entire conversation for the day, communication is the thread that runs all the way through design thinking and just making it possible, right? I love that story as an illustrator of sort of an encapsulator, really, of everything you're talking about here. If you wanted to tell it briefly, it always tickles the hell out of me.
Sure. Yeah, I'll do wave tops. So so as not to bore everybody, but you know, at its core, you have, you know, the idea of going to all of these classes: strategic thinking, critical thinking, design thinking, and even if you pay for a course, you're sitting there and you get 1 hour, one golden nugget out of, you know, 8 hours, and you go, why can't we light our brains on fire for the entire day? Like, why can't we go until the machine almost breaks and we're excited with where we ended up? And you know, Rich Walsh had a segment of his that spun off of what he did in between intermissions for Lean Six Sigma training. I had my portion with design thinking. We meshed the two, and then as luck would have it, did a limited objective experiment on my way out of the Navy. Papers already in, etc. As you can see right now, I'm not in the Navy anymore, but the right people came to it, the right people saw it. And this goes to what JJ said earlier. It's success is the best way to kind of prove and get that ownership and buy-in. We proved that we could do a 3-day workshop with people to move the needle, and ended up doing two workshops a week, every week for months to iterate and prove that it actually worked. And then, you know, rest is history. You end on the last day of your Navy career with 45 admirals in a room because the buy-in was there, you know, slow and methodical as a culture, as opposed to just a one and done type of thing.
I hope that passed your DD 214.
Or, You know, I don't know if that's what you wanted.
I think it's perfect. John, thank you so much for spending time with us today. And thank you so much also for laboring so hard over the years to build a program that made it easy for us to teach everybody from E1 up to 09, 010 how to have conversations in these ways. We really appreciate you making time, Robin.
I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you very much.